We're inside 2 weeks away from the NFL draft for 2020. It'll be a little different than normal. Charles Davis joins us now from NFL Network, Sirius XM Radio, NFL on Fox. He's all over the place. Charles, it's good to see you. How you doing?
I'm doing well, JP. It's great to see you. I hope you're healthy, you and your family and loved ones, and hope that's true for everyone who ends up watching this. And bottom line is, once again, thank you, our first responders out there trying to help all of us.
No doubt about that. And we're fortunate, though, we are able to talk a little football these days with the draft coming up and give people something to watch and do while sitting at home here. So let's get right into it. The Jaguars have two picks in this first round, number 9 and number 20. And let's go right to your most recent mock draft. You go Tristan Wirfs, the Iowa tackle at 9, and Trayvon Diggs from Alabama, the cornerback, at 20. I've seen a lot of people going offensive lineman at number 9 lately. Why did you go that direction?
Just went that direction with looking at what they're doing and how they're constituting things. Can they continue to get Leonard Fournette going? Can they fortify that offensive line? And if Gardner Minshew is going to be their guy, obviously get him protected. I just think value is there as well. And JP, you got 4 big-time offensive tackles that I think in every draft room, they will be the 4 in whatever order people have them ranked. Wirfs will be one of them, and that's right in the midst of an offensive tackle run in my latest mock draft. Yeah. But I think that there's a possibility that Jaguars could go in a number of different areas, a number of different directions, because if somehow that young man from Clemson, Isaiah Simmons, drops to 9, I don't know how you don't hop on him there. Could they surprise us all and grab one of those receivers early? Could they go defensive line? Is Derek Brown still available from Auburn? Is Javon Kinlaw in their wheelhouse from South Carolina at number 9? And Dave Caldwell is the GM. I remember him pulling a fast one on all of us with a guy named Blake Bortles.
That's true.
That no one saw coming. What if he decided, hey, I'm going to fool you all in this draft and come back and get another quarterback and create some competition for the guy we already have? So I think there's a number of ways they could go. But that's how I went in this latest mock draft. And Trayvon Diggs, I gave you at 20 because I think he can play corner and there's a screaming need for you there. But I know he can play safety if indeed that doesn't work, and he can swing back there and give you value. So I think I'm getting almost not a 2-for-1, but I'm actually backstopping myself a little bit by if he can't do one, I'm pretty sure he can do the other and be a pretty darn good player doing it.
Charles Davis with us. Now, the other part of this thing in this conversation that's come over the last couple of weeks around here is that this Jaguars offense needs a few more weapons on it around Gardner Minshew. If Gardner's going to be the guy, why not give him another wide receiver opposite DJ Chark to get that done, and then maybe later in the draft get a third running back of some type to switch things up. I think wide receiver, though, is really in play, certainly if not number 20, then in that second round as well.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that one. And look, if they were that bold, and they've been before in their drafting, as we've noted, and they wanted to go receiver at 9, JP, they might be at the top of the food chain. Like they would have their bite of that tremendous amount of apple that'll be there for wide receivers, meaning I don't think Judy's off the board for Jerry Jeudy from Alabama is off the board at that point. I don't think Henry Ruggs is out of there. At that point. Mm-hmm. I don't think CeeDee Lamb's off the board at that point, because I think we all thought the Cardinals at 8 could be the first one. Kyler Murray advocating for CeeDee Lamb, his college teammate, but they made the deal for DeAndre Hopkins. So I don't know that we're saying receiver there for them. I think your first one, that would be the one that would come off the board and be the surprise, because my break points, JP, has been 11 with the Jets, potentially being the start of the receiver run. Jacksonville could very well say, you know something, that's the guy we want to have. We could go get him right there at 9 and come back later on and fill a couple of the other needs.
Do you feel like there's going to be, at least early in this draft, maybe ahead of the Jaguars, a lot of movement, a lot of trading around? There's always that threat of phone calls, and a lot of times we don't see it happen. But in front of the Jaguars, how much chaos could there be that slides down to number 9?
If there's going to be chaos, does it start at 2 with Washington, who have made a little bit of noise about maybe taking a quarterback there? remember they traded for Kyle Allen with Carolina to pair with Dwayne Haskins. Does that lessen that idea? Detroit at 3, you would think that they would be open for business, but part of what's they've got a battle is, didn't their ownership group tell their GM and their head coach, you better be playing meaningful games in December?
That's right.
So are you going to get out of that one? Or maybe they look at it and say, someone really wants a quarterback. Come get that quarterback you want at 3 and give us a couple of picks, and maybe they add to their roster. So they're in possibility. At 4 with the Giants, Dave Gettleman, the GM, whether it's been at Carolina or his short time with the Giants, JP, he's never traded out of his pick. So they're less likely to be that group. So let's just see what happens as we go forward.
Charles Davis with us from NFL Network, Sirius XM Radio. You mentioned earlier the cornerback position when you mentioned Trayvon Diggs at number 20 in your recent mock, but it seems like there's a bunch of other names there, and obviously the Jaguars have a need there with everything that's happened in the last calendar year. Jalen Ramsey out of here, A.J. Boye now gone. So there's an open spot at outside cornerback to compete at least, if not start right away, for somebody coming in pretty high. Of those guys, who do you feel like can come in right away and start at outside corner?
Well, I think if you want to really be bold at 9 and take C.J. Henderson from Florida, he would be that guy.
Yeah.
Because I think Jeff Okudah at Ohio State is probably gone in the first 5 picks, or so it appears. It'd be a surprise if he slid down, but if he does somehow, that could alter things too. And could you imagine him sitting there at 9? I think the Jaguars might very well have to go in that direction. But I would think Henderson would be in play at 9. And then if you come back at 20, I already talked about Diggs, but you got a Christian Fulton from LSU, who would be a big-time player there and someone that people don't look at. And A.J. Terrell from Clemson also would be someone that would be discussed during that time frame. And both of them, I think, would be on the board and be in play sitting there at the number 20 spot, along with a guy like Trayvon Diggs that I've already talked about previously.
Charles, is this the deepest wide receiver class you've seen? Maybe not at the top end. You don't have like a Julio Jones type of guy or a Megatron here, but there are guys deep into this draft, it feels like.
I think you're right about that. I mean, you're going to hear names come off the board in the 3rd and 4th round that you may not have as great a familiarity with, but the teams do. And Omar Bayless, who lit it up at Arkansas State, could come off in the 4th round and give you value right out of the gate. Laviska Shenault is one of my favorites out of Colorado, who I think is a first-rounder, but he's been dinged a little bit. He may very well slide to the 2nd round and be like a Deebo Samuel was last year from South Carolina, who went in the 2nd to San Francisco and became WR1 for them down the stretch and gave them great production. So, yeah, I think that you're exactly right about that, JP. We can go really deep into this draft and find receivers that can flat-out play. I mean, KJ Hamler in a normal year from Penn State, he might be the first slot off the board. He might not be in this one, but he could very well be the best dart that we can find downfield because someone's going to grab him in the 2nd. He can flat out go.
Charles Davis with us. And you mentioned Dave Caldwell a few years ago, pulling the fast one and getting Blake Bortles. They had not mentioned Blake at all in that pre-draft process, and you never know what could happen. They've said they're confident in Gardner Minshew and all that. But outside of guys like Burrow and Tua and the kid from Oregon, Herbert, who are some maybe second-tier guys at quarterback that could be in play, 2nd, 3rd, 4th rounds here?
Yeah, I think at that point, because I think Jordan Love from Utah State, someone's going to grab him in the 1st as well. So let's get beyond that. Jake Fromm, because I keep hearing from his fans, we haven't called him Jacob since he was a freshman. Okay, my fault. Jake Fromm from Georgia has been nothing but a winner and productive. I think he's more like a 3rd-round guy. I think Jalen Hurts is a guy that you better keep an eye on coming out of Alabama and Oklahoma, who I think rose during the pre-draft process and was really good during the All-Star game process. And remember this about him. He's a flat-out gym rat. He played for his dad in high school. So he was that kid that was watching tape as a kid, right, and going to all the practices. And that fit. The practice field was more of his babysitter. And he just got it by osmosis. We always talk about other quarterbacks that way. Let's not lose sight of that with Jalen Hurts. He gets it, understands the game. He would be a guy. The guy with the biggest arm in the draft, I think, is Jacob Eason out of the University of Washington. But we don't know what we feel about him in terms of maturity, leadership, those capabilities, because there were question marks about that at Georgia and at Washington. But if you want to play a game of catch, JP, you better bring double padded gloves when you play with him. This guy can absolutely spin it and fling it. So those would be some of the guys that would be next in line that we would be talking about. You know, a Jake Luton from Oregon State would be more like a third-day pick. But those are the types of quarterbacks we're talking about.
Final thought with you here, Charles, kind of big picture for the Jaguars here after everything that's happened this offseason. Calais Campbell traded, Boye gone. They said goodbye to Marcel Darius. That's all on defense. Of course, Nick Foles traded to Chicago now. It's Gardner Minshew, at least for now. That's the guy at quarterback. You've got to make a decision on Leonard Fournette moving ahead, whether you want to give him a fifth-year option. That's got to come up in May, I believe. Where does this Jaguars team stand? Is this team a few draft picks away from competing in the AFC South? What's your general feel about the organization in 2020?
Yeah, we thought this was an organization that was going to contend for AFC titles and Super Bowls after that great run against New England. And remember, really, one bad call that possibly was away from the Super Bowl.
That's right. Miles Jack wasn't down, Charles. He wasn't down.
And I'm not arguing with you on that one at all. I feel your pain on that one. But the team has backslid since then. So I think it's more of a possibility. To me, it's more of a team of take a deep cleansing breath, keep making good picks, making good acquisitions. And you and I both know in this league, you can get right in a hurry, can't you?
Yes, you can.
I mean, you could go from worst to first, right? You can get into the playoff mix. We trade out half the teams every year roughly in the playoff situation anyway. And if Gardner Minshew continues to ascend, that kind of galvanizes a team, doesn't it, right? And I just think that this is an organization that keep making good picks, right? Keep finding those free agents. If Minshew hits as the quarterback, he has the ability to rally not just team, but community, fan base, everyone. And I'm telling you, it's one of those intangibles, JP, but you feel it, don't you? You know when you go out on that field, everyone feels like you've got a chance. And Minshew is one of those quarterbacks that when he trots out there for whatever reason, people feel like they have a chance. Now, if he can continue to develop that and show that, that brings the rest of the organization on with him. And you got a chance to get right a lot quicker than maybe what people are predicting.
Charles, great stuff. Good luck to you over the next couple of weeks, and we're looking forward to this draft, as virtual as it will be, but we appreciate your time.